Can you say hi, everybody?
Hi, everybody.
Say I miss you. You get to see everybody soon, right? Yep. I love you, baby. Can you say I love you? Hey, I love you.
My name is Jeremy Malcolm-Fresh. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the city of New Smyrna Beach, Florida. My actual position there is a driver engineer. So this is my story that happened on September 8th of 2021.
Having a stroke, was it?
No, it was a brain injury. Well, you had a stroke too during part of everything that happened. There was a lot of things that happened. Where do you work?
Brooks Rehabilitation.
That's where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for a living? You drive a big red truck.
Mm-hmm.
So what would your job be?
I was at work at the fire department and I was just about to get off shift. We had an early morning call about 7:45 for a motor vehicle accident on a road pretty close to us. And we responded to that accident, but before we got to the accident, we were canceled by other units that were on scene that had already mitigated the situation. So I turned the truck around to go back to the station because it was just about time for everybody to get off and go home. So when we were on the way back to the station, I was driving the truck and our check engine light came on in the engine. So I told my lieutenant, hey, do you want me to take it to our city maintenance garage now, or do you want to wait until the next shift comes on and they can handle it? So my lieutenant told me that just go back to the station, let everybody off because it's almost time to go home, and then he would take the truck over to the garage himself. So me being the nice guy that I am, I said, okay, the garage is about 2-3 blocks away, and we have a emergency response vehicle, or an ERV. So I told my lieutenant, hey, I'll just jump on the ERV and I'll come pick you up at the garage. That way you don't have to walk back. And so my lieutenant was okay with that. He said, I'm going to head over now. I said, okay, well, I'll meet you over there in just a sec. So my lieutenant got in the truck, drove it over to the garage. I followed behind him in the ERV.
Can you do thumbs up? Let me get you on camera.
Probably get a thumbs up for me.
There you go. Good job.
I turned onto the driveway of the garage, and then at that point, I remember being behind our engine. After that, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but a maintenance worker that works at the garage found me laying face down on the ground by the ERV that I was on, and I would not respond to him. He tried calling out for me and tried to kind of shake me to wake me up, and I did not respond whatsoever. So he ran inside the garage and he saw my lieutenant in there, and he let my lieutenant know, hey, you got a guy that's laying down, face down on the ground outside, and he won't respond to me. So of course my lieutenant figured maybe it was me, ran outside to see what was going on. My lieutenant found me face down on the ground with an apparent head injury, and I was not breathing. So at that point, my lieutenant decided to go ahead and make a radio call to our central dispatch to have other units come assist him on the scene that I was at. So altogether, we had basically every engine company from the city and the county in that area come to my scene. We also had our city's ambulance unit come to the scene, and they got me on a backboard and completely spinal immobilized to get me to the hospital. They put me in the back of the ambulance, and they got me from the city of New Smyrna Beach to the city of Daytona, where the hospital was at, in 14 minutes, which is a completely unbelievable response time.
Jeremy is recovering from a traumatic brain injury.
Can you give that thing to Kim?
I am Kim.
That's great. But you're not doing what I asked.
What are you asking?
I'm asking you to give that damn thing to Kim.
But I am Kim.
I'm glad you're Kim.
So what, is there two Kims?
But do what I said, please.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. Is there two Kims?
There's you and that Kim.
There's two Kims.
There's you and the other Kim.
Were you married to both of us?
You mainly.
Me mainly?
Yeah.
What's her birthday?
March something.
March what?
29th.
That's me.
Yeah.
Not her.
You too.
No, there's only one of me.
Following his injury, he spent 30 days in a coma before waking up surrounded by his friends and family.
We're going to tell a little bit about our side of after he was unconscious while he was at Halifax.
The scary part, when we got the call that he was being taken to the hospital, and I actually work across the street from the hospital, so I had to run over to the hospital and meet him over there. I'm Jeremy's mom, by the way. And so I got a call from his chief to go over and meet him across the street. And I went running and met him at the ambulance bay and saw the doors of the ambulance fly open with 4 of his co-workers in the back and blank faces. And he was being bagged, so they were manually breathing for him. And blank faces, and I was asking everybody what happened, and nobody knew. And he was being rushed off the ambulance and being brought into the trauma room. And I was trying to see him, make phone calls, trying to let everybody know what had happened, because I was the first one that was called. So I was trying to reach Kim and reach his dad, and trying to let everybody know to get to the hospital as quickly as possible, because they didn't know what was going to happen. They came out shortly after and said that they were going to have to intubate him because he wasn't breathing on his own, so they had to put a tube down his throat, and they were going to take him to CAT scan because they weren't sure what was going on. And it was scary. And the next thing they did is they came out with his wedding ring, his wallet, and his mask, and his cell phone. And they handed it to me and they said, we're going to call the chaplain. And I just, sorry. I just remember sliding down the wall because nobody was there with me yet. And I just knew what that meant. It just wasn't good. And his fire crew that had brought him in stayed with me, and they were reassuring me that it was going to be okay. And I just remember being so scared, like it's not going to be okay. And so I remember them taking him out of the trauma room. They gave me just a few minutes to see him. And I remember leaning over him and telling him, it's going to be okay, bub. It's going to be okay. Just hold on. We were just waiting, and they finally came in. The trauma doctor came in first, and they came in to see us, and he said it didn't seem so bad. He did have a skull fracture in the back of his skull, and he had some bleeding in the front of his brain. And he said, it's better than I think we thought, but he's going to have a recovery and he may need some therapy, but it looks okay. And I said, okay, that gave us a little hope, I think. I think we were all
Go, Jaden. Go.
A little more optimistic than what we had thought when we first came in. And we asked if we could see him, and they said that they were still getting him ready in the ICU, that it would be a little while.
This is the first time he walked without equipment.
And then the neuro doctor came in. And he was not so optimistic. He told us that, with head injuries, you never knew. It was a minute-by-minute kind of thing. They needed to do what they called a bolt in his head, which was basically putting a monitor in his head.
Come on.
And they would have to drill into his skull. And that was really scary. I said, do you have to do that? And he said, well, if it was my son, I would. And I said, okay. They said they didn't know whether or not he would wake up or not. That the next 24 to 48 hours were the most critical. And that we would just see how it went. And they said after they got the bolt in his head, then we could see him, and we could see how he was doing.
We still hadn't seen him yet by that point.
Yeah, we hadn't seen him.
Okay.
And they warned us what it would look like when we did see him, which was going to be very scary. He was going to have lots of tubes and things in place, and he would have this very funny looking thing sticking out of his head that was monitoring the pressure that was building up in his head. I think you and I were the first to go in.
Yeah, they did 2 at a time.
Yeah, we could go 2 at a time, and I think Kim and I were the first to go in, and it was a shock to see him. And we were told, basically be very quiet. We wanted to keep him as quiet as possible. They had
no stimulation.
Yeah, no stimulation. The room was very quiet, very dark. They had him sedated so that, he would stay quiet. So we were scared to move. We were scared to breathe.
Yeah.
We were scared to talk to each other. So we did a lot of sign language back and forth for things that we would see and things that we noticed. We noticed that he had abrasions on the front of his hands, on his face,
On his back.
down his back. He looked like Jeremy, but it was weird to see Jeremy so still and so quiet. We've never known Jeremy to be so still and so quiet. So it was scary. It was a very, very scary night. They were very adamant about no one could stay except for Kim, which for me was just torture. I had already lost one son at birth, and so the thought of leaving my only other son in the hospital was just god-awful, the gut-wrenching for me.
We did stay together one night, but I don't think either one of us slept because
Yeah.
there's like no beds there.
After the first night, they did allow us to stay more than one.
Yeah.
They made great accommodations. I can't speak highly enough of Halifax Hospital and the care that they gave him as well as the family. They were wonderful.
There was one night that was very, very questionable, right?
Yes, we actually had 4 times where they told us Jeremy wouldn't make it, and we had several nights that were very touch and go, where we were all up. We were like little ducks walking back and forth through the halls and peeking at him through the window.
They gave us that front chapel room.
Yes, and we all stayed together in the chapel room, and it was a long, long night.
Yeah.
With no sleep. Many days of no sleep.
When he finally came home, he was greeted by his friends, family, colleagues, and members of the local community.
Welcome home, Jeremy. Cubby. Welcome home, buddy. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I feel like I put home. No, I understand. You go for a ride?
What an inspiring story. We can thank Jeremy's resilience, the strength of his loved ones, and the amazing work of the doctors and nurses who cared for him for his incredible ongoing recovery. Online, Jeremy was asked what the specific cause of the injury was, and he replied, "The head injury is an unknown area of what happened. The doctors at the hospital said that they believe I was attacked or hit by a car." Meanwhile, others were just blown away by Jeremy's strength and determination, with one person saying, "Oh man, you can tell how hard he's trying. This dude is a legend." I have so much respect for him and everyone in the field. As always, thanks for watching Happiest. If you liked this video, then be sure to follow our Instagram and TikTok pages for even more heartwarming videos like this. And if you have any of your own that you want to share, be sure to send them in.